Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go over Humminbird Xplore settings and what those best settings are for side imaging and down imaging and 2D as well. These settings should give you the ability to get the best image out of your Xplore and see cover easier, see schools of bass easier. We're going to go over some screenshots on these units as well and kind of go over what things look like and why these settings seem to be the best. For those of you who just want the settings quickly, I'm going to put them right here. And for those of you who kind of want to dive into these images and kind of get a sense of what we're looking at, we're going to go through some of these screenshots, so stay tuned. Alright, so let's hop into some of these settings here. I'm going to show you what my settings are real quick on the unit here, and then we're going to dive into some of these screenshots. So, my pane, first of all, I like the side image up top, 2D on the left, and down imaging on the right here. My side imaging settings, my sensitivity set at 13, my contrast is set at 12. I don't use the dynamic contrast. My scroll speed is at 1, and I like this black-blue crawl here. I go back and forth between that and this sunrise color, this reddish color, but for most of the time I'm running that black-blue crawl. I do run mega imaging on the side imaging, of course, and I do run it at 100 feet. For my down imaging, a lot of people don't realize this, but you actually get a better image on Humminbird at 455, or if your transducer allows it, sometimes at 800. But the mega imaging of down imaging really isn't the best for some reason. It's not that dialed in. So I go back and forth kind of between 455 and 800. The sensitivity is at 17. The contrast is at 15. I don't use a dynamic contrast again. The scroll speed's at 1. And this green watermelon color really makes everything on the bottom pop, and you'll see some of that in these screenshots here later. I do run this on auto depth, and that's about it for the down imaging. 2D is kind of self-explanatory. My sensitivity here is at 10, but you could probably bump that up higher. Contrast is set at 20. I haven't really messed with the 2D a whole lot since I got it. I use it more for validation of the hardness of the bottom and so forth. I'm using the side imaging and the down imaging a lot more to find the actual fish. But the sonar color here, I use palette number 5. Scroll speed again is at 1, and yeah, that's it for the settings. So let's dive into some of those screenshots. This first one we're going to be looking at is clearly a stump field. This imaging does a really good job of showing the cover, not only the cover but also the shadows. You can see you can faintly see this little cloud right here. That's baitfish, but you can really see the shadows of the baitfish really well up here. There's also, I say baitfish, but they could be crappie. But there's no question here what we're looking at is stumps. You can see the roots right here, like obviously the taller the shadow, or the taller and slender shadows here, or the taller pieces. This one's just a big thick stump. That's probably be the best piece on this here screenshot. But yeah, once again, just no question what we're looking at here. The down imaging, the shallower you get, the down imaging is kind of fuzzy. But once again, we can at least see the stem here coming up, and you can tell these are hard pieces of cover. This next image here is a roadbed. You can see the softer, darker bottom here, and then when it transitions into that lighter, hotter image, that's a harder bottom. That's the roadbed, and then you can see a group of fish out here to our right. You can see the individual white little specks, and then you can see the black shadow behind them. It's definitely a group of fish, whether they be bass, striper, or walleye. I'm not sure. I did not fish for these. I was just idling around looking for stuff to show. But yeah, this is a good example of a roadbed with some fish on it. This next screenshot here, I'm wanting to focus on the down imaging here. So these actually ended up being stripers, or wipers, is a combination of a striped bass and a white bass. But you can see how they're uniform. They're on the bottom for the most part. We got a couple of them that are sitting up high, but If you idled over something like this on a traditional, like a TVA reservoir, or somewhere where there's, their bass are known to school up, this is kind of what you'd be looking for. These are the right size. These dots are kind of big here, but for the most part, this would be a good example of how bass set up on the bottom. And I idled over these perfectly to where we can only really see them good on down imaging. The side imaging here is kind of vacant, but that's because I idled over them perfectly with down imaging. But in this next screenshot here, you'll be able to kind of see what they somewhat look like on side imaging. Okay, here's that side imaging image. You can see these here, I was starting to make a turn, so they're a little elongated. But these little specks right here, all around these cover, would be what you're looking for. You can see a couple of them here still on down imaging. But if you were to look, I mean, if this was multiplied by 5 or 10, and there was 20 or 30 of those dots sitting in a good uniform right around here, that's kind of the size and shape and distance apart of what bass would look like on side imaging. This next screenshot here has incredible detail. I mean, this stump right here, you can see the individual variations of the roots, the shadows here. I mean, it's just like you're looking at it, I mean, with goggles on or something. I mean, the detail of that is crazy. This right here to me looks like a fallen tree, once again with a root wad that's kind of been uprooted. You can see the shadow. It's something that's tall here, like a root wad, because the beam is hitting this and casting a shadow of whatever this is, and I would say it's probably a root wad with a fallen piece of timber here. On the down imaging, this split right here is because I backtracked and wanted to mark this stump. You can see here it's a really big stump. There's some bait on top of it and a couple of decent sized fish hanging out around it. You can see that dot right there behind my icon. But just overall a really clean image of if you're on a lake looking for stumps. I mean, you're going to have absolutely no trouble finding them and wondering. You're not going to wonder if that's a stump or not. It's plain as day with this imaging in these settings. This image right here is actually like a rock vein or a rock shelf. I mean, you can really clearly see that it's rock, or what rock would look like. And then the shadow dropping off, that's insinuating that this is up off the bottom. So a really good image of some rock there. On the bottom, on down imaging here, this hard piece right here is a stump. These are actually blades of grass. This area where I was at had some grass. You can see grass off to the side here. It's like softer looking with some shadows in it. Little patches of grass here. But this is what that would look like on down imaging. Really thick grass obviously is a lot more strung out and clumped together. But there is some little grass patches here as well. This image is pretty cool. So on the lake I was idling on, this has an actual old rock quarry, and you can see as I was idling, as I was coming up on top of where the quarry is about to start, there's a big ball of bait right here. But you can see how it transitions from just this regular bottom into this big chunk rock. I mean, just big pieces of rock here, and then it drops off into about 30 feet. And you see how bright this is almost white, is how bright it is. And you can just see all the way down that slope that's a really hard bottom. And then the next screenshot here, you can tell that it's just like a big bowl basically. So I idled over it off the drop here, and then through the whole rock quarry, and then up on top here. This is the next peak, but once again you can just see the big chunk rock here. There's actually a tree. You can see the individual branches in the big shadow here that's hanging out on the side or on top of it here. You can see these dots. There are some fish suspended alongside of this. I'm once again not sure what those are. I hadn't fished it, but those certainly could be bass. And my assumption on this lake, again, they're probably stripers or wipers. But yeah, just great detail here of the rock. No question that we're looking at big chunk rock and just overall really, really good detailed clean bottom. This next image here is one of my favorites. I actually took this when I was up north on a smallmouth fishery. So these are actually smallmouth beds, and the detail is just insane. The fact that these over here, I mean, it was, you know, the beginning of July, so they had been done spawning. But the fact that these are starting to silt in and you can still see the definition is just mind-blowing to me. And over here, you know, there's a hard piece of cover here with some beds on this as well. But this is just such a cool image to know that if I was up there at the right time, I could idle around and mark these beds and put myself in an area where I could have a blast catching these bedding smallmouth. But yeah, just to have the confidence in the unit to know that I could find the, you know, some beds on the side imaging without any question is just really, really good. This last image here, I've switched over to the red palette. This was actually on Kentucky Lake this summer. They had kicked the current up a tremendous amount, and the bass were way out on the main river, but they were actively leaving those spots while I was out here, and this was such a cool image to me for that reason. Normally, all of these little black specks would be kind of tighter and in a good uniform, like circle, but they were actively leaving, and you can see that here, how spread out they are. I knew they were bass because of the size and shape of them, but just to see them actively leaving on side imaging was really, really cool to me. The down imaging in 2D here, I was actually had I was going in reverse, and I was scrolling back on my history, so these are a little blurry and not an accurate depiction of what I saw, but just this is 100% bass. I caught some of them, but it's just really cool to see them actively leaving and spread out, and to confirm that, okay, these bass are leaving. But just to be able to know that you can use and count on your technology to give you that information is so crucial, because they sure cost a lot of money, and you want them to read correctly, and you want them to give you all the information that you can. Well, that's a wrap for the video, guys. I hope that helps. I hope these settings really help you dial in your units. These Explorers are a little bit different from the Helix settings that a lot of us are transitioning from, so keep that in mind, that they are going to be a little bit different. But they're really good. They got a really crisp image, and hopefully these settings will help you find a few more bass this summer. Be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us, and we'll see you next time.